Okay, so this is the 2025 Toronto Grand Prix Women's 200-meter butterfly Heat 2. We are looking at Katie Stanojlovic, or Stanojlovic. Katie, you can correct me in the future on that, and Sydney Stewart over here. We're going to watch the race all at once, and then we'll go one by one through you two girls. Here we are.
Just after this race, and then I can show you your video. I don't know.
I thought they were going to do 100. Might die.
We don't need to listen to the private conversation going on. Nicely done. There's the times. Coming back to the start. Okay, so Katie, we're going to look at you first. Here we are. Like the other 200 butterfly, I got caught off guard. It just came up on me too fast. I would have preferred to be getting a video side on so you could see your body positions on the blocks. Overall, looking pretty good from what we can tell from this head-on position, though. Interestingly, you're a little lopsided there, maybe a bit more than we can see on other swimmers. Certainly pointing out to me that right hip higher than the left on a pretty significant angle there. Not entirely sure if that matters so much, but I wouldn't necessarily assume that this is a position we want to be in. I'd rather see that hip lower, or alternatively the left hip higher, just so it's evened out. Frame by frame until we get a start. Pretty good. It looked, I mean, your arm was kind of covering your back leg there, but it looked... Okay, so, you know, we have a first reaction, and it is a bit of an arm collapse, so I'd like to see your dive. You take your marks. Yeah, I'm wrong. I think pretty clearly, despite your leg being behind your arm, that back leg is firing first. So great. We want to see that back leg firing first. You can ignore the note I was about to make, because great. Getting good extension on that back leg. We can see that your body is still kind of concave here. Maybe getting more to this body position when you're leaving contact there, but it might be better. But here's the thing, we can see that that front leg is loaded very nicely. You are a little low though, so there's not much to go out to. Maybe practice doing dives for distance. Who cares about how nice they are? But dives for distance, coupled with this relatively very nice entry. Pretty darn nice. So, great underwater by the looks of it. A little slow down into the breakout, but not bad. Great kick. You are powering. Some of these strokes when you're breathing on, you're not quite getting your head down as fast as I'd like. That last one was not indicative of the prior breaths, but it is indicative of the point I was trying to make. We can see here, head gets down just in time. Maybe it could be down a little bit sooner, but I think this next breath, it's a little higher on that one, I'd say. That one was certainly it. Maybe that was the one that I was thinking about seeing. Let's check that out in slow frame by frame. You can see your ribs are already starting to sink. Definitely a higher head position on that stroke. Getting that head down, leading our body forward and into the wave form that butterfly is best swum with. Butterfly that you were doing earlier is a great ideal to be shooting for. Great touch, I'd say. Great decision to take big strokes going into the wall. Good underwater by the looks of it. I'm never a proponent to breathe on the first breath. I'd rather you do an establishing stroke and then you can breathe, or even better, 2 establishing strokes with butterfly and then you can breathe. You are just pounding this 50 out. I'd love the first 2 strokes to look like this, so that you are starting from a better position and then laying out, rather than, in a way, hamstringing yourself on the first 2 strokes, having technically worst strokes. I think that's just all there is to it, right? They're all good, but that stroke looks very different than these strokes. And you can see it takes you about 5 strokes to get up into this. It's not entirely because you're starting yourself up with breathing strokes, but I would say in part it's because you're starting yourself with breathing strokes. So maybe playing around with preserving all that momentum and speed that you're generating coming off of the wall and incorporating that and getting the first couple of strokes feeling like this, and then get your breaths in, right? But I think, this is awesome butterfly here. This is great. Shortening up a little bit because I think you're coming into the wall and you know that. Ideally, we don't see a change in distance per stroke. Those last 2 strokes there are very small coming into the wall. Not the same turn that we saw at the 50. Small, 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 turn. I want to see those big open water strokes that you were taking. 2 strokes breathing on the start. You're starting to rebuild momentum there. I'd love to see you break out of the water with the momentum that you clearly are able to generate. Almost cutting off your fingertips there. Really, really good. Really powerful. A little bit of fatigue showing there. You do stop at the 150, so presumably, you're reacting to that, which is totally okay. In general, really nicely swim. Things to work on. Really nice opportunities coming off the walls that you could improve on and probably see, not only faster times come out of it, but probably easier swims. A nice element of butterfly is that fast butterfly is easier than slow butterfly. If I told you that you needed to do a 50-meter butterfly in 2 minutes, right, some absurdly high time, but you have to, right? That's the challenge. You have to do it in 2 minutes, and you can't not swim. You have to be swimming, right? You'd be doing it vertical butterfly, and you'd be hating me and yourself, right? No fun. It'd be terrible butterfly. It'd be hard. Your arms would be burning. Your legs would be burning. You'd be out of breath. It'd suck. If I told you to do a 50 butterfly at like 80%, 90% even effort, A, it'd be over in seconds, and B, you'd probably go, yeah, that's tiring, but I could do that again, if not in 2 minutes, in 3 minutes, right? 4 minutes, and just get up and go again, and probably for a similar amount of time. Butterfly benefits from being fast. It's an efficient stroke. It's nearly as efficient as freestyle when swum by someone who knows how to swim butterfly really well. It is more powerful than freestyle. It's that difference in an efficiency that makes it the second fastest stroke. That stroke that you were seeing, that you were doing in the middle of basically every lane or length, right? This stroke is very, very good. You want to be doing this stroke for as much as possible of every length. Really, really well swum. Okay, coming over to you, Sydney. Let's see. Over here. I like the body position on the blocks. That back leg, you know, we have a better angle than we did with lane 4 here with Katie. The back leg is at maybe a bit smaller than 90 degrees, hard to tell, but looking pretty good. Shoulders are set. I doubt that was a go. It's more likely a take your marks. Probably go happening here because I'm already beginning to track. Pan right. Head is starting to lift. There was a bit of motion on that back foot. Overall, pretty good reaction. I'd like to see more of a focus on pressing that back leg, though. Great extension on that back leg. That head is looking very low in your streamline, though. Great extension on the front leg. I think your head has picked up, so we can ignore my early comment about that low head. A little loose in the legs here, it looks like, right? Let's keep some of that tension that you get pressing off the blocks. Keep that tension that we see here. That back leg is ramrod. That front leg is a ramrod right now. And you contact the water and you just let off a little bit. I'd like to see that tension maintained a little bit. Overall, very nice dive, barely any splash. Can't see underwater, so that sucks, but that's my fault. Like I was saying to Katie, I'd like to see the starts of our lengths be non-breathing strokes, because a breathing stroke is kind of an obstructed stroke. It's not an ideal stroke. I'd like to see a couple of strokes where you establish yourself and then you can get your breath in. It's going to be a better start that way, a better start to every length. Head is a little high on entry on breathing strokes. Coming up nicely. Yeah, that one, your head's fine. Her head's in the way. I think it's hard to see, and you know what? I reserve the right to be wrong, but I have a feeling that your head could be down a bit more. It's just not being necessarily reflected in the video, so ignore me at your leisure. But it just looks like you're kind of slamming the water a little bit, and I'd love to see a bit of a smoother entry every stroke cycle. Very arm heavy. I'd like to see that big kick in the butterfly drive you a little bit more. We can see you're starting the length off with that big kick driving. Here's an interesting reality. We can see that you splash, splash, splash every big kick. I'm glad that you're really forcing the big kick here. But we can see that you're coming up high enough that we're actually getting air underneath your feet, which means that when you come down, the cavitation isn't in a slurry of air and water. You're actually bringing and beating air down into the water. The portion of the kick, like you're missing the down kick because you're kicking off of air, which is, classically a very bad medium to push off of if you want to gain forward momentum. So, counterintuitively, keeping your kick a little bit smaller keeping it in the water more, not letting it slap, not letting it thunk is maybe how you're feeling that reverberate up your skeleton. You know, which is a good, satisfying feeling. It makes you feel like you're working hard, but maybe you're working too hard because you're not getting the squeeze out of these grapes. Something to note here. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think your feet, your left foot looks like it's higher than your right foot constantly. Trying to get a frame where that matches that feeling. Let's see if it looks similar on the other side. Very high on those opening breaths. Yeah, okay. I think that last frame. Let's see if we can see it again. Yeah, okay, there we go. Your left leg is higher than your right leg. You know, I think it's a little hard to be, you know, this specific and this nitpicky about why this isn't ideal. But at the bare minimum, you know, it's not a uniform surface area that is impacting the water when you get your down kick, or even when you're getting a little bit of the up kick that happens with dolphin kicking. Technically means that I would expect the water that is underneath your right foot here would travel you know, from a high pressure to a low pressure. So it's going to travel from your right foot to your low foot on impact. When you're impacting the water, you're creating a momentary high pressure environment. It's going to slip, like all high pressure environments do, to a low pressure environment, which is going to be underneath your left foot that hasn't made impact yet. And so that energy, like, it's just not going to be as effective as the whole thing coming down in uniformity and the water being forced entirely out from under both of your feet at the same time. We want a uniform high pressure environment. I'm also worried that that looks a little bit like a vestigial kick. It's just not as, you know, you've clearly got as much going on your right leg than your left leg. But, you know, an awesome opportunity. If we have something that seems a little obvious like that, well, then that's an amazing moment to take a second and go, if I can work on this thing, this very specific thing, I might see some good gains. Coming into this final wall looking fatigued, big high stroke on the starts again. Then you start to level out and the stroke looks a bit better, but then you're coming so high on the breathing strokes, maybe trying to be a little bit lower. Right? The higher we come out of the water, the more energy we're expending to do that. So, you know, I get you're fatigued, I get this is a 200 butterfly. But if you, when you're tired, when you're fatigued, if you're reacting by trying to get out of the water even more, right? You know, that's just kind of that's a terrible little cycle to be in. Pushing, pushing, pushing. Nice. Good finish. Pouring your heart out in that race. Very well done. A couple of good things to work on, though. Overall, great swim by both of you girls.